Hey guys, tonight we slip into the sun-scorched sands of ancient Persia, where empires rise like mirages and ambition burns hotter than the desert noon. Picture yourself astride a dusty camel, swaying through a bustling bazaar, silk banners snapping in the wind, the air thick with saffron and sweat. You're not just a traveler, you're stepping into the world of Cyrus the Great, the guy who stitched a patchwork of tribes into a superpower that stretched from India to Egypt. One wrong move in this cutthroat realm, and you probably won't survive this. A stray arrow or a poison goblet could end your tale before it starts. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and local time. I love knowing where you're listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're standing in a rugged valley, 559 BCE, where a young Cyrus, barely past his teens, sharpens his blade under a flickering torch. He's not royalty yet, just a scrappy Persian chieftain with a glint in his eye and a knack for making friends or enemies. Historians still argue whether Cyrus was born a prince or clawed his way up from nothing. But the mainstream fact is clear. He unified the Persian tribes, turning rival clans into a loyal coalition. His secret? Charm, strategy, and a dash of ruthlessness. You watch him ride into a Median camp, his mother's people, offering peace but ready for war. By 550 BCE, he's toppled their king, his own grandfather, in a bloodless coup. Talk about family drama. Here's the quirky bit. Legend says Cyrus was raised by a she-wolf, suckled in the wild like a Persian Romulus. It's probably a myth spun to make him seem divine, but you can't help picturing a toddler toddling after a wolf pack, gnawing on venison. The truth is tamer. He was likely mentored by nomads, learning to hunt, ride, and read people's weaknesses. You see him now, rallying warriors with promises of glory, his voice low but magnetic, like a late-night DJ. He's not just building an army, he's crafting a vision. You smell the campfire smoke, hear the clink of bronze spears as tribes, Persians, Medes, Elamites, swear allegiance. Cyrus moves fast, like he's playing chess, while everyone else is stuck on checkers. You follow him to Lydia, where King Croesus, richer than a modern tech mogul, thinks his gold can buy victory. Spoiler, it doesn't. Cyrus's cavalry, with their terrifyingly huge war horses, tramples Lydia by 546 BCE. Then he eyes Babylon, a city so fortified it laughs at sieges. You're there when he diverts the Euphrates River, sneaking his troops through the mud to capture it without a fight. Genius or madness? You decide, but it works. His empire now spans mountains, deserts, and seas. What makes this stick is Cyrus's vibe. He's not just conquering, he's connecting. You notice how he spares defeated kings, offering them advisory roles instead of execution. It's like he's collecting Pokemon cards, but with warlords. His enemies become allies, their loyalty bought with respect, not fear. You chuckle at the thought of Croesus, once the world's richest man, now Cyrus's financial advisor, probably grumbling over tax ledgers. By the time you blink, Cyrus has laid the foundation for an empire that'll outlast him, all because he knew how to win hearts as well as wars. The torchlight fades, but the story's just warming up. You're swaying on a creaky cart, wheels grinding over a dusty trail that stretches farther than your eyes can squint. This is the Royal Road, Persia's ancient superhighway, and you're smack in the middle of its 1,700-mile pulse. It's not just a road, it's the empire's nervous system, carrying messages, merchants, and secrets from Susa's palaces to Sardis's markets. You smell sweat-soaked leather from the courier's horse galloping past, his satchel stuffed with royal decrees. The mainstream fact: this road, perfected under Darius the First, let runners relay orders across continents in days, not months. Think Pony Express, but with better sandals. You pause at a way station, a stone outpost buzzing with travelers. A quirky tidbit floats through the chatter. Couriers, called Piradazish, were so relentless that neither snow nor heat stopped them. Sound familiar? Yeah, the US Postal Service totally stole their motto. You smirk, imagining a Persian mailman side-eyeing a blizzard like it's a personal insult. Historians still argue whether the road was Cyrus's brainchild or Darius's upgrade, but you see its genius in action. Posts every 15 miles, fresh horses ready, like an ancient Uber for imperial memos. You hop off the cart, boots crunching gravel, and notice the road's surface. Packed earth, sometimes paved, wide enough for chariots to pass without a fender bender. You hear a merchant haggling over silk from India, his accent clashing with a Greek trader's drawl. This isn't just a mail route. It's a trade artery, pumping wealth into Persia's heart. You picture the king in Susa, sipping wine, reading reports from Egypt before breakfast. That's power, knowing your empire's every hiccup while your enemies are still sending smoke signals. The road's real magic, though, is its messengers. You watch a rider dismount, his cloak stained with dust, swapping horses faster than a pit crew changes tires. These guys run in teams, passing scrolls like a relay baton. You're told a message could travel 200 miles a day. Insane for a world where most folks never leave their village. You chuckle at the thought of a courier sprinting through a sandstorm, muttering, "This better be worth the overtime." But it was. A rebellion in Babylon, squashed before it grew. Thanks to intel, you're crouched behind a dune, heart thumping as a Persian army marches past, their bronze armor glinting under a merciless sun. The ground shakes with the rhythm of 10,000 boots, spears gleaming like a forest of steel. This is the Persian military machine, the fist that crushed kingdoms and kept an empire spanning 3 continents in line. You're witnessing the immortals, the elite 10,000 strong unit, their ranks always full, replacements slipping in like ghosts. The mainstream fact hits hard. Under Darius I, this army's discipline and scale, archers, cavalry, infantry, made it a juggernaut, steamrolling foes from Greece to India. You catch a quirky tidbit whispered among the ranks. The immortals carried apples in their quivers, a cheeky snack for long marches, supposedly to keep their aim sharp. You grin, picturing a soldier munching mid-battle, juice dripping down his beard. Historians still argue whether the immortals were truly invincible or just hyped by Greek writers who loved a good villain. But you see their precision now, moving like a single beast, shields locked, bows drawn in eerie sync. You scramble to a ridge, peering at the camp below. Tents sprawl like a city, logistics as deadly as any sword. The Persians mastered supply chains, grain, water, horses, carted across deserts without a hitch. You smell roasting lamb, hear the clatter of blacksmiths sharpening blades. Their cavalry, those massive Nisaean horses, snort nearby, each one worth more than a village. You chuckle, imagining a Greek hoplite wetting his tunic at the sight of these beasts charging. The army's diversity stuns you. Medes, Scythians, Egyptians, each unit bringing its own flair, like a lethal cultural festival. What makes this army tick isn't just muscle, it's strategy. You overhear a general barking orders, his map dotted with pins. The Persians used feigned retreats, luring enemies into traps, like a cat toying with a mouse. You recall Cyrus's trick against Lydia, faking a withdrawal only to circle back and crush them. It's chess, not checkers, and Persia's always 3 moves ahead. You flinch as a scout gallops past, his report headed for the royal road. Remember that dusty highway? It's how this army stays coordinated, striking before rebels can blink. You slip closer, unnoticed, as archers practice, their composite bows spitting arrows that punch through leather like paper. These aren't just soldiers, they're professionals, trained from youth, loyal to a king who rewards them with land and gold. You smirk at the thought of a grunt dreaming of a vineyard while dodging spears. But loyalty isn't cheap. Defectors face crucifixion, a grim reminder of who's boss. As the sun dips, painting the camp gold, you feel the weight of this machine, unstoppable yet human. Each soldier a cog in Persia's grand design. You're weaving through a crowded bazaar in Susa, the air thick with cardamom and the chatter of a dozen tongues. This is Persia's cultural mosaic, a kaleidoscope of peoples, Medes, Babylonians, Greeks, Indians, living under one vast imperial roof. You brush past a scribe, etching cuneiform, his coal-lined eyes flicking up, while a Lydian jeweler hawks gold beside an Egyptian selling linen. The mainstream fact is undeniable. Persia's power came from embracing diversity, letting conquered nations keep their customs, languages, and gods so long as they paid taxes and stayed loyal. A quirky tidbit catches your ear. Persian nobles threw feasts of 1,000 dishes, where guests sampled foods from every corner of the empire. Think sushi, curry, and falafel on the same table. You chuckle, imagining a noble choking on spicy Sogdian stew, too proud to admit defeat. Historians still argue whether this cultural blending strengthened unity or sowed seeds of rebellion, but you see it working here, the empire's glue holding firm. You wander deeper, dodging a camel laden with silk. The streets pulse with life. Zoroastrian priests chant. A Greek philosopher debates fate. A Bactrian trader brags about his horses. Persia didn't just conquer, it absorbed, mixing ideas like a cosmic DJ. You smell fresh bread from a Babylonian oven. Hear a lyre strumming a tune that could be from Athens. The empire's policy of tolerance. Remember Cyrus sparing defeated kings? Lets these cultures thrive. Their differences a strength, not a threat. You pause at a temple, its walls carved with lions and lotus flowers, a nod to Egypt and Mesopotamia. Local elites, not Persian overlords, run daily life, keeping the peace. You smirk, picturing a snooty satrap trying to pronounce pharaoh correctly. But it's not all harmony. Taxes spark grumbles, and distant provinces eye independence. You overhear a merchant muttering about a revolt in Ionia. Quickly hushed. The empire's diversity is a tightrope, and Persia walks it with gold and steel. You slip into a tavern, the air smoky, laughter loud. A storyteller spins a tale of Gilgamesh, blending Sumerian lore with Persian flair. This cultural fusion, art, stories, even fashion, creates a shared identity. Yet each group clings to its roots. You sip date wine, feeling the empire's heartbeat. its strength in this vibrant, chaotic blend, like a stew that somehow works. As you step back into the starlit street, the bazaar's hum fades, but its energy lingers. You're standing in a sunlit courtyard in Persepolis, the empire's glittering nerve center, where scribes shuffle clay tablets and couriers dash off with sealed orders. This is the satrapy system, Persia's administrative masterpiece, dividing a sprawling empire into manageable chunks called satrapies. You watch a satrap, decked in gold-embroidered robes, review tax rolls, while his guards eye the crowd. The mainstream fact is clear. Darius I's network of 20-plus satrapies, each run by a governor, kept the empire humming, collecting tribute and enforcing law from Egypt to India. A quirky tidbit floats by. Satraps send the king bizarre gifts, like ostrich eggs or live leopards, to curry favor. You snicker, picturing Darius frowning at a squawking bird, muttering, "Another one?" Historians still argue whether this system was a stroke of genius or a bureaucratic nightmare prone to corruption. But you see its gears turning. Local rulers, loyal to the king, govern with Persian oversight, balancing autonomy and control. You follow a scribe into a record hall, the air cool and dusty. He tallies grain from Babylon, silver from Lydia, horses from Bactria. The empire's wealth flows through these ledgers, funneled to the king's coffers. You smell ink and clay, hear the scratch of styluses. Satraps report via the royal road. Remember that highway? Ensuring Darius knows every revolt or shortfall. You smirk, imagining a satrap sweating as he fudges numbers to dodge the king's wrath. The system's strength is its checks. You spot the king's eyes, secret inspectors who roam, sniffing out disloyalty. They're like ancient CIA, popping up unannounced to audit a satrap's books. You chuckle at the thought of a governor hiding gold under his bed, caught red-handed. Yet, locals keep their laws and customs. Egyptians worship Osiris. Greeks hold festivals, easing resentment. It's not perfect. Greedy satraps spark rebellions. But the system's flexibility, backed by the immortal swords, holds the empire tight. You step outside, the palace's columns soaring like giants. This machine, scribes, spies, satraps, runs smoother than a modern startup, scaling an empire bigger than anything before. As you wander, the courtyard's bustle fades, but the system's quiet power hums on. You're drifting through a firelit temple in Pasargadae, the air heavy with incense and the low hum of chants. This is the heart of Persian spirituality, where Zoroastrianism, the empire's guiding flame, shapes values and binds its people. You see priests tending a sacred fire, its glow dancing on their white robes, never allowed to die. The mainstream fact is solid. Zoroastrianism, with its focus on truth, order, and a cosmic battle between good and evil, influenced Persian rulers like Cyrus and Darius, giving their empire a moral backbone. A quirky tidbit slips in. Zoroastrians expose their dead to vultures on towers of silence to keep the earth pure, practical, but you wince imagining the cleanup crew. Historians still argue whether Cyrus was a devout Zoroastrian or just paid lip service to unite his diverse subjects. You feel the faith's weight here, its emphasis on Asha, truth, guiding the king's decrees and the lowliest farmer's prayers. You step closer, the fire's warmth brushing your skin. Zoroastrianism isn't just rituals, it's a worldview. You hear a priest recite the Avesta, ancient hymns praising Ahura Mazda, the supreme god. This isn't a jealous deity demanding exclusivity. Persians let conquered peoples worship their own gods, from Babylon's Marduk to Egypt's Amun. You recall the cultural mosaic in Susa's bazaar. This tolerance stems from Zoroastrian respect for order, not chaos. You smirk, picturing a priest side-eyeing a rowdy Greek festival, but shrugging. As long as they pay taxes, the faith shapes justice too. You overhear a judge settling a dispute, citing truth as the ultimate law, lie, and you're siding with Angra Mainyu, the evil spirit. It's high stakes for a fib. The king, seen as Mazda's chosen, wields divine authority. His satraps, remember those governors, enforcing laws with a holy tint. You chuckle, imagining a satrap blaming a bad harvest on cosmic evil to dodge a riot. You wander outside, stars blazing above. Zoroastrianism's dualism, good versus evil, gives Persians purpose, from the immortal's discipline to the royal road's efficiency. It's less a religion than a lens, coloring every choice. As the temple's glow fades, you feel its quiet power, a fire that fueled an empire's soul. You're standing before Persepolis, its colossal stone columns soaring into a sky so blue it hurts your eyes. This is Persia's architectural crown, a city of palaces and pomp built to scream power. You trace the carvings, lions, griffins, tribute bearers from distant lands, etched with a precision that makes your jaw drop. The mainstream fact is awe-inspiring. Darius constructed Persepolis around 518 BCE as a ceremonial capital. Its engineering, massive stone blocks, intricate water channels, rivaling anything Egypt or Greece could muster. A quirky tidbit catches you off guard. Workers etched tiny graffiti, like Khosrow was here, on hidden stones, a cheeky wink from the past. You grin, picturing a mason sneaking his name into history. Historians still argue whether Persepolis was a practical hub or just a flex for visiting dignitaries, but you feel its grandeur, a stage for the king's glory. You climb the grand staircase, each step wide enough for a chariot. The Apadana Palace looms, its 72 columns holding up a cedar roof that smells faintly of resin. You hear echoes of feasts. Imagine satraps, those governors you met, bowing to the king. The city's genius lies in its details. Underground sewers keep it clean. Aqueducts pipe water from miles away. You smirk, thinking modern cities could take notes. You wander to the Hall of 100 Columns, its reliefs showing envoys from India to Ethiopia. This isn't just art, it's propaganda, shouting, "We rule everyone." The labor force, Babylonians, Greeks, locals, blended skills, much like the empire's cultural mosaic in Susa's bazaar. You marvel at the mud brick walls, light yet earthquake-proof, a trick Persia mastered. You chuckle, imagining a Greek architect scratching his head, muttering, "How'd they do that?" The city scale hits you. Terraces carved into mountains, gold tiles glinting like stars. It took decades, thousands of hands, and bottomless wealth funneled through the satrapy system. Yet, it's not cold. There's warmth in the details, like floral motifs nodding to Zoroastrian reverence for nature. As you linger, the sun dips, casting shadows that dance like the empire's ambitions, vast and unyielding. You're trudging along a caravan trail, the air sharp with dust and the tang of camel sweat, as merchants haul silk and spices toward Persia's heart. This is the empire's economic engine, a web of trade routes spinning wealth from China to the Mediterranean. You hear the clink of silver derricks, Persia's gold standard coins, changing hands at a roadside stall. The mainstream fact is staggering. Persia's economy, fueled by tribute and trade, amassed a treasury so vast, think billions in today's dollars, that it bankrolled armies and palaces like Persepolis. A quirky tidbit pops up. Traders used wind catchers, tower-like vents, to cool desert warehouses, and ancient AC for their goods. You smirk, picturing a merchant fanning his saffron like a diva. Historians still argue whether Persia's wealth came more from trade or taxation, but you see both at work here, the empire's arteries pulsing with commerce. You pause at a market, vibrant as Susa's bazaar. Indian gems, Egyptian grain, Greek wine, goods flow like rivers, thanks to the royal road's speed and the satrapy system's order. You smell roasted pistachios, hear a trader haggle in broken Aramaic. Persia standardized weights and measures, making deals smooth across cultures. You chuckle, imagining a Babylonian grumbling about newfangled scales, only to pocket the profits. The empire's tax system is the real muscle. You watch a satrap's agent tally tribute, gold, horses, even soldiers, funneled to the king. Each province pays what it can. Lydia's silver, Bactria's camels. It's not just cash, it's control, tying far-flung lands to the throne. You recall the king's eyes, those spies from Persepolis, ensuring no satrap skims too much. Yet, trade's the spark, Silk Road routes, Red Sea ports, linking east and west. You marvel at a Chinese vase, its journey longer than your Netflix queue. You join a caravan, the horizon shimmering. Persia's wealth isn't just gold, it's stability, letting markets thrive while armies, those immortals, guard the roads. You grin, thinking of a bandit eyeing a caravan, then spotting Persian archers and noping out. As dusk settles, the market's glow fades, but the empire's economic hum keeps churning, a machine of coin and ambition. You're lurking in the shadows of a grand pavilion, where Persian envoys sip wine with foreign ambassadors, their smiles sharp as daggers. This is the art of Persian diplomacy, a chess game of alliances and veiled threats that keeps the empire's borders secure. You catch whispers of treaties, the air thick with intrigue and rosewater. The mainstream fact is undeniable. Persia's diplomatic prowess, honed by kings like Darius I, used marriage, bribes, and cunning to pacify rivals, often avoiding war while expanding influence. A quirky tidbit slips through. Persian diplomats carried scented wax tablets, jotting notes with a stylus, while smelling like a luxury spa. You smirk, imagining a Greek envoy sneezing through a cloud of lavender. Historians still argue whether Persia's diplomacy was more about genuine partnerships or thinly veiled coercion, but you see it in action. Smooth words, backed by the immortal spears. You edge closer, overhearing a satrap negotiate with a Scythian chieftain. The empire's playbook is slick. Marry a princess to a rival king, like Cyrus's daughter to a Median lord, and suddenly enemies are family. You recall the cultural mosaic in Susa. Diplomacy weaves those threads tighter. Gifts flow like rivers, gold, horses, even a giraffe once, just to flex. You chuckle, picturing a Median warlord puzzling over a long-necked beast, muttering, "What's next? A talking camel?" The royal road, that dusty lifeline, speeds envoys to every corner, carrying orders sealed with the king's ring. You smell parchment and wax, hear the clop of hoofs as a messenger races off. Persia plays rivals against each other. Greeks versus Greeks, nomads versus nomads. keeping them too busy to unite. You marvel at a treaty with Athens, signed to fund their war against Sparta, all while Persia watches, sipping tea. It's 4D chess, and the king's always winning. You slip out as torches flicker, the pavilion's hum fading. Diplomacy isn't just talk, it's power, softer than swords, but just as sharp, binding the empire's sprawl with promises and gold. The night air cools, but the game's heat lingers, a dance of words and wiles. You're sitting on a hill overlooking a quiet valley, the ruins of Persepolis glowing faintly under a crescent moon. The Persian Empire's glory days are long gone, but its echoes linger in the stories, art, and ideas that still shape the world. You feel the weight of centuries, the empire's legacy woven into the fabric of cultures from Istanbul to Delhi. The mainstream fact is clear. Persia's influence, its art, governance, and tolerance outlived its fall in 330 BCE, seeding modern systems of law, trade, and even postal networks. A quirky tidbit tickles you. Persian-style gardens, with their shaded paths and fountains, inspired the word paradise from paradisa, meaning walled enclosure. You smile, picturing a stressed-out satrap chilling by a koi pond, inventing Zen. Historians still argue whether Persia's collapse came from internal rot or Alexander's genius, but you see its gifts enduring: roads, coins, and ideas that refuse to fade. You trace the empire's fingerprints. The royal road's spirit lives in modern highways. The satrapy system's efficiency haunts today's bureaucracies. You recall the bazaar in Susa, its diversity mirrored in global cities now. Persian art, those intricate reliefs in Persepolis, flows into Islamic architecture, all swirling vines and symmetry. You chuckle, imagining a hipster architect gushing over a mosque's tiles, clueless about their Achaemenid roots. Zoroastrianism's dualism, that cosmic tug-of-war, nudges early Judaism, Christianity, even philosophy. You hear a distant chant, feel the fire temple's warmth. Persia's tolerance, letting conquered peoples thrive, sets a bar we still chase. The Darius glint echoes in global currencies. Diplomacy's cunning, those scented envoys, shapes modern statecraft. You smirk, thinking of a UN delegate, unknowingly channeling Darius, minus the giraffe gifts. As the stars brighten, you reflect on Persia's lesson. Power isn't just swords or gold. It's connection, adaptability, a vision that binds. The empire fell, yet it lives in every road, coin, and idea it gifted the world. The night deepens, and the valley's hush wraps you like a soft blanket. Those grand palaces, the clatter of caravans, the whispers of envoys, They fade into a gentle hum, like the fan you might have spinning nearby. You've walked the empire's roads, felt its heartbeat, and now it's time to let it rest. Persia's story isn't gone. It's in the stars above, the cities we build, the dreams we chase. So, breathe slow. Let your thoughts drift like sand over dunes. The world keeps turning, but for now, you're safe, cozy, carried by the quiet rhythm of history. Sleep well, traveler. Tomorrow's another tale. Sweet dreams.